Everyone. I think Tom Burr is the only one missing. We have a quorum. Tonight, the agenda, first, I have a request from Alderman Massey and Alderman Burr from one of their constituents regarding a stop sign at Vincent Drive. I'll just go ahead and read the request from the constituents. Good afternoon, Mr. Massey. Actually, it's not coming from me, that's your request. As I discussed with Tom Burr last Friday, November 5th, 2021, I am sending this email to inform the city of an unsafe intersection within my neighborhood at 79 Vincent Drive. My family and I had resigned at 4 Gaybar Circle since November of 1998. This intersection across from 79 Vincent does not have a yield sign or a stop sign. Times, cars will make either a left or a right without turning at the intersection. I'm looking to ensure that there is no vehicle passing the intersection on the straightaway. I would like to be proactive to request that a traffic sign be installed at the intersection. We are hopeful that there would be ensured to unsafe all before the intersection. Someone suffers serious injury or even worse, a loss of life. Sincerely, Howard and Sharon Walker. The commissioner and I actually canvassed the area and we walk around for a few, and commissioner actually had a good request. We basically gave everybody a map to see exactly what we're looking at. And Commissioner, do you mind explaining that to us, please?
Good evening. Yeah, the chairman and I went and visited the area of Vincent Drive and Vincent Drive intersection. The chairman has given you a map of the proposed, basically he would like to propose yield sign instead of a stop sign at Vincent and Vincent. And we looked at Vincent Drive and Cottage Street, which is really more of a dangerous intersection in there if people don't stop. So we're proposing a stop sign there too. Vincent going into Cottage. So one is yield sign, Vincent and Vincent, and one is stop sign, Vincent and Cottage.
But they're actually requesting the stop sign on Vincent, but it'll be more appropriate to have a yield sign on Vincent.
Yes.
And a stop sign.
Yeah, he requested either. He said yield or stop, I believe.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's you know, we have many, the point is we have many intersections in there in Middletown without any signs because Alderman Kleiner keep reminding everyone that it is the state law that you have to stop at an intersection or at least yield. So now people, if they roll through it and there is a sheriff department or state police or something like that, they're gonna get ticketed if there's a stop sign. While before, if there's nothing at that intersection, you're required to slow down and yield and stop and what have you if you see any traffic. Now, that option is going to be taken out. If you roll through the stop sign and a police officer sees you, whether it is Middletown Sheriff Department or the state police, they're going to ticket you. That's the disadvantage of having these stop signs all over the place now.
Looking at it, you and I are looking at it, to me, it's practical to do that. So I'm just going to go around to see how everybody feel about it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. So first of all, I think the map is a great addition to the conversation. We've talked about a lot of intersections. Right. And when you actually are able to visualize, oh, there's a building 10 feet from the thing or the thing. So that's a great addition. I hope you can keep it up. We've also had many discussions about T intersections and you're supposed to stop but you don't. So I think the yield is a perfect solution to the problem. So, bravo.
Especially in that corner. Alderman Green.
Thank you very much. Yeah, common sense isn't common, so you know I can understand, especially on that Cottage Street, why it would be especially dangerous for someone to pull out without even considering slowing down, and vehicles could be traveling at a higher rate of speed than they should be. So I'm all for this. Thank you for the map.
Okay, Alderman Tobin.
Is the stop sign's going out of Vincent, right? Is it stopping traffic on Cottage? Just curious.
No, there isn't. It's a straightaway.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
No. Alderman Massey, it's your
Yeah,
request.
First of all, I appreciate that you guys went up and did that, and this is, I think it's very workable, and I think they'll be satisfied with it.
Okay. Alderwoman Consum?
My understanding was always a T intersection is a required stop when you're facing the T anyway. So if it's a reminder to make sure people don't get hurt, that's fine with me. And I always yield to the alderman of the ward where this request is from. So I'm fine with it if Joe and Tom want it.
Mr. Klein?
I agree, no problem with it.
All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda, I have, what do I have? Actually, multiple drivers. The mayor had a discussion about this, and I'm not fully understand what the issue is, so I'll let the mayor and the commissioner kind of explain that.
As more families get more cars, we're getting more and more complaints about people parking on front lawns or even converting their front lawns into driveways. So after going through the code with Jacob and the chairman yesterday, at the chairman's direction, we were reviewing the code, and believe it or not, you basically, depending upon how far back your house sits, if you're on a 50-foot lot, you can pave the whole front of your house and have up to two 30-foot driveways. So we don't think that's a good idea. So we'd like to re-examine how we handle this for one-family homes, for two-family homes. The idea of taking away front lawns because of density is not so appealing, I'm sure, to many in many neighborhoods. So the code calls for the Commissioner of Public Works to get involved with his discretion, but only when it goes over 30 feet. And we read it differently. I think it's 30 feet with one driveway. He thinks it's 30 feet total. But it is confusing. So we'll hopefully get some ideas from you folks about how you would like to see the driveway situation. And also, you're getting a lot of complaints, and some of you are complaining to me about it, about the lack of enforcement from the city about people parking on front lawns. And we've talked about it in the under the understanding of we've been considering alternate side of the street parking or some type of winter parking rules that would alleviate some of the problems that neighbors are having with removing their cars from the streets during the winter months. And we've done that in a sense with some people who haven't had a driveway. Andrew came up with last year with a proposal to issue some permits, and I think we only issued maybe a half a dozen last year, but hopefully that'll gain some ground. And we may need to modify that a little bit too. But overall, we're now seeing it not only during the winter months, we're seeing it year round. And it really is not appealing to be riding down Wickham Avenue and seeing people parked all over the lawn. So it's in the code. We can enforce a lot of it now. I don't know if all of you want us to enforce it because it's been ignored for so many years. But the idea is maybe to start some educational outreach to people, letting them know, starting ASAP, that we are going to be enforcing this in the future, and you have alternatives. One of them is the permit. We can look at expanding, as I said, that permit, maybe giving more options, because like for a day like today, there's no reason why somebody has to be parked in the driveway. At least from my perspective. I know the commissioner, is he here still? He has major disagreements with that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it easier for people to enjoy their homes, and people will have multiple cars, and without facing the prospect of having to park, have almost like a shuttle from a parking lot to your house. So I'm sure there's options. I don't have all the answers, but we need, as a body, to make a decision whether you want to how you want to move ahead, whether it's education, modifying some of the existing laws, doing other crackdowns on enforcement, but we need some direction from you, because I know in the past when we have started some enforcement, we get some pushback from you guys hear the words from some of your people, and then all of a sudden we're not doing the right thing because we're not doing it citywide. So we'll look for some guidance from you as a board, or Mr. Chairman. You can maintain it in committee, get some feedback from the committee on how we'd like to proceed. But I think we can all agree that it's not appropriate to be able to blacktop your whole front yard and use it as a driveway. So that's the spiel.
Thank you, Mayor.
You have questions?
Go ahead, Sal.
The 30 feet that you're talking about, is that 30 feet like back or?
No,
is it
30 feet wide.
wide? Wow, okay, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and most of our lots are, not most, but I don't know what the breakdown is, but quite a few lots, especially in the first and third wards, are smaller than 50 feet or less.
Wow.
So it's, my thinking is we should do it proportional to the property and have some kind of guidelines there. But I like I said, I haven't gone into it deep enough, and I don't know where you folks want to go legislative. And it's one thing to have code. It's the other thing when you start enforcing it, how are we going to react to it?
Alderman Johnson.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this conversation was prompted by something in particular, but I had a phone call from the residents of number 12 Standish about 2 weeks ago, because the residents at number 14 Standish were digging on the side of the house opposite the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And they have since poured a cement driveway that goes from the curb to the back of the home, pretty much at the boundary line with the number 12. And they said they had spoken to the city and there was no code violation. Was that particular project
No, that
part of this
wasn't it.
conversation?
But those are the types of calls we get from people who, you enjoy a lawn between you and your neighbor, and all of a sudden you have driveways on each side.
The number 12 people were also concerned because we have water issues sometimes in Pilgrim Estates. And now if that was going to be an impervious surface,
Right.
that might now go onto their property.
Well,
I guess it's just
it's
coincidental. It
a
just
big
happened about
snowball.
3 weeks ago.
It's a big snowball. So, you're aware of it, Jacob? Yeah.
Of the number
Yeah.
14? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can do up to 30 feet and up to
It
two
looks,
driveways.
it looks okay. It just looks different.
People can have two driveways, it's an our code.
Okay.
The question is whether you want it that way. That's my.
Well, that's
my
why,
point.
because they'd already be grandfathered in because they just
Right,
did it
right.
last
Well,
week.
well, you have a lot more properties in the city that will be facing the same dilemma.
Gotcha.
Would have been more appropriate to have, your 10-foot driveway and then do another 10-foot right next to it and
Well,
save
most
some
people
ground.
enlarge the current driveway. I've never seen it go on the opposite side of the house
No,
before.
we're getting quite a bit of it.
Okay.
Quite a bit of it. And that's what's prompting some of the questions from neighbors.
Okay.
But that's the perfect example.
Okay. Alderman Kasum.
I'm thinking about, like, their 2 and 3 family homes as well. Like, are we going to make the landlords responsible for figuring out where their tenants will park with this as well? I mean, it's something we need to think about because you've got multiple cars in half of a 2-family that has one small driveway, and it's something we face a lot throughout the 3rd ward and some other wards.
Yeah, even in a single-family home, we have multiple cars.
Yeah, exactly.
I have
But I
6
think
cars
even
in my
there it
house.
becomes more complicated, like
Because you
where.
have to have a reservation.
Yeah, yeah.
But in
We
a
do
single,
angle
I know
parking.
you look like a car lot. You got them all out for
We have
show
angle
on
parking,
the
but
same angle. But I mean, when it's a landlord-tenant situation, I guess for the homeowner, you're responsible for your cars. But when it's a landlord-tenant, are we going to make the landlord responsible for providing or figuring out the parking, be it
I guess we can
permits?
do all that in as we put together an ordinance. But I think it's an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Because not most, but quite a few landlords will not make those accommodations. They'll just say, the hell with it.
Right, figure it out, and then they are parking on the lawn.
Park on the grass or park wherever, but we'll have to make it work somehow. But I think we can all agree that, that parking on that front lawn is not
No,
aesthetically appealing. And we should do something about it.
I agree.
I know we referring to 30 feet driveways. Is it possible if you have 2 15-feet driveway, would that be okay?
Well, that's
So
what,
that'll be the
that's what
total.
we're going to talk about is
Okay.
whether it's correct to have, would you rather have first of all, 30 feet on a 50-foot lot seems to me, excessive.
It's more than
Right.
half.
And
yeah.
that's why you should have it prorated to the size of your lot, at least my feeling. But we need to get it, it's got to be clear, it's got to be consideration that we have different neighborhoods too. We have areas where there's 30, 40-foot lots, and we have areas where there's 100-foot frontage and plus 100 feet, plus frontage. So, it could be based on a percentage of the frontage that you have. That's the maximum amount of, you have a minimum of 10 feet, which is, I think, a typical driveway, or up to 20% of your frontage. That's how a lot of communities do it. So ours happens to be old. It was modified back in 15, it looks like, but yeah, that's what we took some. But listen, it's not as clear, and it's not working the way we anticipated it would work. At least it's not working the way I anticipated it would work. So if you want to change it, let's change it. Let's work on it. We can look at draft ordinances from other communities. I can provide you with all that. But we'd also look for ideas. When you have your constituent meetings, see what the feedback is from your constituents. And, there's some streets where it may be appropriate. There's a few houses on Wickham by Lake where there is no driveway, and they're already, the front of the house is already the driveway. So maybe certain things like that can be grandfathered in. We don't want to be come in with just a hammer. I think we got to be reasonable as we do it. But you also have houses in that same neighborhood that do have a driveway, and people are still parking on the lawn.
Correct.
And because they don't want to flip cars. So, and then you have another case where in that same area, because I come down Lake Avenue every day, where someone just paved their driveway all the way to the back.
Right.
And I think it was to accommodate more vehicles to get off of I hope it's to get off the front lawn where they were previously parking. So there are answers. Let's just see how we want to address it.
Alderman Johnson.
I'm just as we're talking about, so do we have to address what a driveway is? Because what if I bought 50 pounds of crushed stone and I poured it on my front lawn and I said, that's a driveway?
Well, yeah, you got to define, parking too. Parking defines the driveway, I guess. You can have a dirt driveway, but you can't park it. But our code
That's
currently
where I'm
does.
going, where does it end?
Our code currently does address how that a driveway has to be an entrance out onto the street.
So it doesn't indicate the substrate or what it's made of?
Yeah, you can't pull in and then turn left to go into your driveway. That's not considered a driveway. It's not part of your driveway, whether you have it blacktopped or not, under the code. But
Slippery slope,
That's a good way to start.
slippery slope.
as you go to
But
enforce it.
well, how do you enforce it? You enforce it by if you're parked on you're parked on an area that doesn't have a curb cut, then you're not parked in your driveway. But and I don't know about the. Listen, my father growing up, he hated grass, and he wanted to cement the whole front lawn, if he could, and my mother wouldn't let him. And I can understand people want to do that too, but we didn't park on it. It was on a hill, so it wasn't for the purposes of parking a car. So some people may want to have a concrete front lawn, which I don't think we want to get involved in that business, but parking cars all over is a different story.
And especially in my neighborhood, what I notice, especially in the wintertime, at nighttime, when they don't want to get any tickets or so, if they have visitors, they don't have enough parking space.
Yeah.
They'll park on the lawn.
Sure.
But that's temporary, And
Well, and that's one of the points that you got to consider is that there won't be any temporary because the police won't know if someone's getting a visitor, if Jude has a visitor.
correct.
And when we create these laws, that you got to keep that in mind is that there's not a lot of discretion that's given in those types of things.
Alderman Green.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that's one of the points I was just going to bring up is that when we look at this, I think we do have to look at winter parking rules, especially for people who already have small driveways or shared driveways especially. I know a few neighborhoods where it's just a hardship for some people to even park them and their neighbors on a shared driveway and fit both cars because of the way cars are being sized nowadays. So I think that's something we really need to look at every aspect of this. This is probably going to be an extensive conversation.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to
It's
happen.
not going to be solved overnight, yeah.
You're not going to get a resolution at the next meeting. And Mr. Tawil will lobby extensively to keep the cars off of the streets. we had the discussion, and I'm raising it once again, that there might be a solution that is very complicated, but Mr. Tweel is adamantly opposed to it for a number of reasons. Some of them legitimate, not all of them.
Alderman Johnson again.
Well, I'm just processing. So when I go to visit my family in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they're pretty strict about everything. My son-in-law's car got towed on Harvard graduation day while his wife was graduating because they're very strict about it. But when I go, if I want to park in the street, my apartment has a permit. So is that another issue of the temporary guest? Can somebody apply for a permit and say, my uncle's going to visit and he's going to have to park on the lawn? And the permit would say, December 7th to December 8th.
Well,
Unless
we
they
have,
should, but
we have
something
the
to think
basis
about.
for that now with the overnight permit.
Correct.
And I'll give you, we're going to be doing something similar downtown, where if you're going to
Right.
be on vacation, you need a permit, you'll be able to get permit online through the clerk's office or whatever. And we have some other ideas that we're going to be throwing out as we move. It's, it's a moving parts. These are all moving
Right.
parts. And tonight, there's no reason why somebody has to park on their front lawn, but everybody who needs to will be, because they don't want to get a ticket.
Right.
And, is it weather related? Sometimes we have a foot of snow on the ground here, so they would have to be parked on the street. Off the street. So it's a balance. There's a lot of ands, ifs, and buts. There's Mr. Tweel's concerns, and but we should at least start having the discussion, because it appears that alternate side is not something that the board was interested in doing. So we have to look at the different options, and you're talking about Cambridge. They have a different option.
Right.
I don't know what happens when it snows. Do they have to remove, I'm sure the permit doesn't apply when it snows.
They're very strict.
They take you off the street. You got to go find a place to park.
They're very strict.
Yes.
Our permit is not
Zero
stated for
tolerance.
residential, it's just for commercial as of now, the permit that we have.
No, you can have an overnight parking permit in your for your house if you don't have a driveway, and you can get more than one. I think we interpreted it a little bit differently this year, but it's you might have to expand that beyond raising what Kate's issue is. If they do have a driveway,
Right.
maybe you need to give some consideration to that type of home where there's a multiple dwelling that only has a small driveway and limited parking, or there's no ability to have additional parking, like on Wickham, some of those homes on Wickham. But there's going to be a whole bunch of examples of what to do and what not to do. But with every action, there's going to be a reaction, and that's why I think it's got to be done thoughtfully. Take our time, look at other communities, maybe ride to Cambridge in the wintertime and see what problems communities are having. That's always very effective from my point of view on how we address it. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're not just going to wake up and say we come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. There's solutions out there. We can visit some other communities and find out what they're doing right that we're not doing. Yeah, but it's becoming more, Kate, too. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with enforcing it.
Yeah, summer is an easy thing. Yeah, summer is, I think we would all agree on enforcement. You can park in front of your house, don't park on the lawn. Right. You can walk, 100 feet or 50 feet.
But I mean, when we talk about legislating this,
Exactly.
you're not telling people this is your whole life.
Yeah.
Just you have to be aware that you.
Right.
So it's not.
Agreed.
Alderman Tobin.
I agree, and I think there's, I do see people that don't have driveways park on the lawn, but I do see a lot of examples where they have a driveway and they're parking on the lawn just because it's closer to the front of the house, or in the summer, they're doing it anyway, and sometimes it's tenants. I've seen landlords try to reclaim the front yard by putting little fences in, and so, that definitely does not make the neighborhood.
Well, and it's happening more frequently because there's not enforcement of it.
Right.
And, it's term we haven't, and, we all know that we've sort of turned the other cheek because we feel bad for someone having to walk, blocks to find a parking spot for their car, or some people were paying $100, $150 a month to park in private property, other, local businesses, which, I don't think it's great business to make a few dollars, but we should have other options, and that's what we should explore as a body. And so we'll need everyone's input, and we'll need to maybe take a road trip, some of us, and see how it's similar type towns. Because if you remember, Alderman Massey, during the garbage mechanical arm situation, was insistent that the mechanical arms were not used in any similar places like Middletown. And then when I was up in Salem, Massachusetts, on a family vacation, and I saw the garbage truck coming down the street, very narrow street, with the mechanical arm, and I came back and reported to you that Alderman Massey was incorrect, that it was done that way, so. But I was on
We'll
vacation.
see
I
when
wasn't
they
on
go
city
down
time.
Ogden Street.
Alderman Kleiner.
Accomplish what you want to accomplish
Thank
in
you,
this
I appreciate that.
little half hour.
Thank you. I have to ask something on a different subject because we're running out of time. On the agenda, there's a resolution to add to make Walnut Lane in Hampshire a three-way stop. And I don't think we discussed that at all.
Yes, we did.
We did?
Yes, we did. With
Okay.
the police chief when he had the five stop sign.
Okay, he's in
Yes,
favor of it?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, we did.
Okay.
Yep.
All right?
I know the charter has a lot of things about where you can tie up your horse. and
Yeah.
Places you can carry. So we are, some of it is just a little out of date.
We should clean some of that up.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of charter revisions, and but those who were revising decided not to remove certain things. Why, I don't know, but maybe we should talk to Mr. Smith and see why he can't go through that charter when he's not doing much, and make recommendations
might
on how
own
to
a
remove
horse.
some of these archaic resolutions.
So you want to keep all the hitching
Thank
posts
you.
then, right? Want to keep them all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner, do you care to elaborate?
Oh, here we go.
No, for now, just the question is, the mayor proposed or put before you is, we do need a clarification because we read it differently. He wants it to be, and I support that, to be 30-foot total for two driveways. This is how we are implementing it. If you want to have two driveways in there, we're implementing it 30-foot total width for both of them, 15 and 15 or 20 and 10. This is how we are the mayor is saying, well, it's not clear, Jacob, it could be, 30 and 30. And he's right. That's all we're asking for clarification in the code to make it, stand out. That total, I'm sorry, yeah, short term. Short term.
Okay.
The long term is whatever we discussed before. For a long time, we can discuss it again about parking.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? It was a pretty good discussion. It is now 7:28. The DPW committee is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.